Hey guys, welcome to Juicy Tea, where I read out the best stories on Reddit, so you don't have to. The funny, shocking, and satisfyingly juicy. Today, we look at the most entitled people on Reddit. I demand to be put in a seat that's able to recline. Posted by Earthshaker495. A few years ago, I was on a flight from LA to Singapore. Takes 16 plus hours. I'm a tall dude, around 6'3", so I don't fit very well into economy class seats. On most planes, my knees are very often right up against the seat in front of me. This makes it impossible for the person in front of me to recline their seat, which usually isn't a problem once the person in front sees how cramped I am in those tiny seats. However, for this particular flight, the man in front was not having it. He tried to recline his seat, but couldn't because my legs were there. He turns around, sees what's happening, and asks me, "Do you mind letting me put my seat back?" I respond with, "I wish I could, but I physically can't. I'll do my best to give you as much space as I can, but it won't be much." At this point, he starts getting angry and just starts pushing as hard as he can on the back of his seat. Needless to say, this was not particularly pleasant for me. I ask him to please stop, and he says, "I'll stop when I can put my seat back." I decide I'll just wait him out. He'll eventually get tired. After about 10 to 15 minutes of this, he calls the flight attendant over and proceeds to demand a new seat. The flight attendant tells him there's no available seats and he'll have to deal with it. He then demands to speak to the pilot. So the flight attendant goes up front to talk to the cockpit. Keep in mind that throughout all of this, he's still pressing with all of his might against my knees, with only short breaks to yell at the flight attendant. After a couple of minutes, the co-pilot, he wanted to speak to the pilot, so wasn't happy about this, comes back and tries to explain to the man that he can't change seats because there's no other coach seats free. The man continues to demand a seat that's able to recline. "Give me an upgrade, this is unacceptable," making a scene, etc. The co-pilot finally gives in and says, while looking at the man, "Sir, would you like to sit up in business class?" The man stands up and mutters, "Effing finally!" To which the co-pilot responds, "Sir, sit down. I wasn't talking to you." He turns to me and repeats, "How would you like a seat in business class?" I have, to this day, never seen someone as furious as this man was as I walked past him to my new business class seat with free drinks. Our neighbours took our fence when we were on a road trip. Posted by Justin Elderberry 26. Well, the title explains most of this, but I'm fuming right now, so gotta rant this one out. We've had issues with our attached neighbours from the moment we bought our house. Originally, it was just a 60-something female and her 18-something grandson. The day we moved in, we tried to make small talk and introduce ourselves. The woman was dropping hints that the old owners used to bake her goodies all the time, and she missed it, kind of insinuating that we should be like them because she deserved to be treated like a princess. The grandson introduced himself as the worst person in town. What an intro. So afterwards, we just tried to keep a friendly distance and stay out of their way. Suddenly, about a week after living here, they began screaming at odd hours, blasting music and banging on the walls. The police were at their house for domestic disputes monthly due to the woman calling the cops on her grandson. We've lived here for over 2 years now, fixing up our house, making it beautiful, and adding value to it. Up to this point, we've just let them have their problems because it's not like we have kids to worry about protecting. It's just my partner and I, in our mid-20s. Fast forward to last month. One evening, after it got dark, we heard what we thought were gunshots right in our backyard. Mind you, we live in a downtown suburb with an older person facility right behind our house, so we were a little concerned. We have cameras that we installed just to be safe, so we checked them. The grandson and his friends were sitting in their yard talking about shoot another round, they'll just think it's fireworks, and that's a .45 round. Unfortunately, it was dark and we couldn't see them shoot it, but the camera picked up the sound of them shooting off 9 rounds, so we naturally called the cops. The kids then left and the cops couldn't prove anyone was on the premises with a gun, so they let it go. In the beginning of August, the woman let her daughter, sister-in-law and their children move in with them for who knows what reason. Before this, they only came to visit during holidays. One time, they left their infant child on the street in a carrier for over half an hour, until I knocked and let them know that she was out there. None of my business, but from there on the screaming and yelling got worse, and this time with crying kids in the mix. I had half a mind to call CPS, but I've heard the awful things that happen to kids in the system, so I couldn't bring myself to do it. This month, we were fortunate enough to go on a road trip to see some cool places and visit family. We left at the end of August and were checking our cameras when we had service, which was not that much. One day, we got a call from our unattached neighbour saying that our attached neighbours were building a really ugly fence with some spare planks from who knows where. We tried to not worry too much because up until this point, their awful shed wasn't our problem, other than being an eyesore in the neighbourhood. We just enjoyed the rest of our trip and let it go, occasionally checking to make sure they weren't in our yard or anything, since it's nicely fenced in and gated. Didn't catch anything on camera, just them building their shed. We arrived home a few hours ago to find that these entitled Fs had dug out and stolen part of our fence, metal posts and chain link, to create a back fence and a gate for their yard. This left huge holes in our back parking area that my partner almost tripped and fell into. They also tied it into our fence incorrectly, pulling our fence lopsided and loose, basically damaging it. Unfortunately, our camera didn't catch them taking our fence, just them in our yard in one frame and in theirs in the next. We want to press charges, but aren't sure about how to go about it. We checked our seller's disclosure stating that the previous owners of our house had put in the fence, so we know it was our fence they took. I am so livid right now, and I know yelling at them won't fix it, but how can you be so entitled that you can't even buy your own chain link fence? Instead, you steal your neighbours when they aren't home. Thanks for reading this rant. Entitled people suck. Karen freaks out in a public bathroom because I took her stool. Posted by No Actuator 5149. So, this just happened. I'm sitting in the food court area of my local mall typing this. I was just in the mall bathroom. It's pretty big. I think there's like 8 to 10 stools in it. When I entered the bathroom, it looked like only one other stool was occupied. I chose a stool randomly and settled in to do my business. I hear the bathroom door open and a loud click from high heels. They stop outside my stool and I'm startled by a loud banging. Then I hear a nasally, "Excuse me," and I say, "Someone's in here," and this is a conversation that ensues. Karen, "No shite, can you hurry up? I need that stool." Me, there are plenty of open stools." Karen, "Do you think I'm blind? I want this one. Now hurry up, I have somewhere to be." Me, honestly a little stumped, so I stutter a little. "I'll be out when I'm done. If you're in a hurry, use one of the many empty stools." Karen, "Listen here, biatch, I don't like your attitude. This is my stool. I use it every time I'm here. Now move it." She actually shakes the stool, and now I'm pissed. Me, "You need to back up. You can't own a stool in a public bathroom. Now leave me alone." Karen starts kicking and shaking the door at the same time. I sigh loudly and decide to just ignore her. I also decide I'm gonna purposely sit in the stool longer, even though I'm done with my business. This psycho continues to hurl insults, kick and shake the door for a solid 5 minutes. Finally, she screams out, "F you, biatch, eat poop and die." I actually laughed out loud at that one, and she loudly click-clacks out of the bathroom. Some people are just straight-up psychopaths. Who thinks they actually own a specific stool in a mall bathroom?
You're in my spot.
My mum constantly says, "I'm the exception." Posted by AuntsUnter03A. Every time I try and correct my mum for doing something she shouldn't, like parking in a handicap spot, she'll tell me, "I can do that though." Like, no, you're not special. She tried to get me a job at Sephora, but they don't hire until you're 18. She thought she could get me a job there because she knows the manager. She always jokes about how when I was little, I'd get upset that she parked in handicap spots. I still do. It's not right. Real handicapped people need to use those spots. They're not for you. Wow, she's basically letting everyone know that a small child had a better moral compass than her. Isn't she embarrassed? Remember, I post new content every day, so subscribe for more juicy tea.